Neha Mahajan was born in India and moved to the United States 10 years ago. She hosts and produced Centerstage, a successful and popular talk show on TV Asia that is mainly geared to an audience of Indian expats like herself. The married mother of two is on an H4 visa. She has an employment document attached to her H4 visa, and it allows her to work legally in the United States as the spouse of someone who is on an H1B visa. The H1B visa is the professional working visa. She has now found herself in a position of immigration as an immigration advocate since the Trump administration announced that the H4 work permits are going to be canceled soon. Neha joins me today to discuss her immigration story, her career, and what the cancellation of the work permit through her H4 visa would mean for her and many others like her. Welcome, Neha. How you doing? Thanks for coming on Bradshaw Live.
Hi, Brad. Thank you so much for having me over.
Tell me about your show. Where do we see it, and what do you talk about?
I am a host and producer for TV Asia's Centerstage. It's a talk show. It's a debate show. We talk about issues that are pertinent to the South Asian community here in the U.S. And it's not just geared at the expats, but also, people who left India or, Southeast Asia years ago and have settled here into the U.S., now call U.S. their home, and that community is now changing, right? So there's a dire need of good content that is reflective of these changes.
Where would I find TV Asia? Where do I find it?
On your cable network, just call them up.
Ah, wonderful. So it's a cable channel.
Yes, it's a cable channel.
And
it's the oldest running South Asian channel in the U.S.
Tell me some of the more interesting topics you've talked about recently.
Oh, LGBTQ.
Uh-huh.
That is something that gets shoved under the rug, irrespective. I mean, even with the mainstream America, you see that's not a topic most people are comfortable talking about, right? And think of it from a way conservative. South Asians are typically a little conservative. They don't want to talk about these issues so much. So yes, that's one. Domestic violence was another one. After my show on domestic violence, I actually got a few calls from real women who didn't know what to do, and I was instrumental in connecting them to the right kind of help.
How is domestic violence treated in India? I guess it's obviously it's a problem all over the world, including the United States.
There are cultural differences, whether you're in the US or in India, but human life is human life, and they both hold value, whether in India or in the US.
So, all right. So we have a clip of you on your show.
I think it was about the LGBTQ show. I think it's a promo from my show, yes.
All right, let's watch.
And we're talking about how inclusive is the South Asian diaspora when it comes to different sexual identities.
Honestly, one of the first questions was "Log kya kahenge," which is what will people say?
This is not a choice. This is the way that you're born.
But Jesus actually never mentions same-gender relationships.
This is a homosexual disorder, which is not absolutely true.
So in essence, it's a talk show you moderate, right?
That's right.
When you pick a topic that's controversial, just like what we watch now, or domestic violence, what is the reaction that you get? Is it positive? Or people saying, why are you bringing these topics up?
People's jaws drop after watching my show. That's what happens. Because we churn the discussion in such a way that those topics are not typically brought about. I mean, you hear and read about certain things in the media in a certain way, but when you're sitting on a dining table and watching my show, this is not the topic that you would have ever heard of.
Right, and do they do a type of show like this in India, or are these shows that get very controversial don't really air?
I do not watch a lot of television that gets played in India, but yes, I'm sure such shows are aired there too. TV Asia is watched in North America, across North America. It's not a channel that you would get subscription to in India, but my show is available on YouTube once it's aired on TV Asia's channel.
So tell me a little bit about your life before you came to the United States. Where were you living? What were you doing? I assume you were born in India. Is that correct?
I was born in India. Right. I was born and raised in New Delhi. My lifestyle was pretty similar to what I have right now here. My husband's a software developer. We were in the UK before coming to the US. We didn't come here looking for a job.
Right.
My husband's employer found his skill sets valuable enough. So he was just moved from India operations to US operations, yes.
And they brought him here on an H1B.
That's right.
What were the pros and cons of coming and not coming?
So the pros and cons were really more around what kind of job opportunities there are really for the two of us. One of the startling things were there weren't much information about the H4 visa holders available online back then. minutes 10 years ago. There was a lot of information available on what you could do on an H-1B visa, what the policies are like. But except for the USCIS's website, there wasn't much available on how the H-4 visa restricts a spouse of H-1B visa.
Yeah, all you can do up until 2015 when Obama changed the law, all you can do is just be here like a tourist.
Not every H-1B visa holder's spouse gets the work
Correct.
authorization.
Correct.
It's only when you are legally on the path approved by Department of Labor and USCIS.
Right. You have an you have an I-140 approved and you're on a waiting list. Absolutely.
Exactly.
And who are the people who are on a waiting list? It's basically Chinese and Indians and Filipinos.
There you go. You know, this whole hullabaloo around H4 EAD. My question to everybody is, if I were born, my husband was brought here on the basis of his skills, right? He was not brought here because he was born in India. It was just natural for us to follow. That's what you do as a family. You know, you stay together. You don't stay in two different continents.
Right.
When he came here and we applied, and the husband's company applied for the green card and it got approved, it was only then that I got my H4 EAD in 2015. And it was not as if, overnight, Obama administration just decided to hand over the H4 EAD.
And you've been here since what, the mid-2000s?
2008.
2008. So you were here 7 years without a job, staying at home,
That's
right? What
That's
did you do to keep yourself busy?
Became an activist.
Ah, right. Activists don't get paid.
Right. Activists don't get paid. See, the whole problem is there's so much lack of information around this issue. People don't know.
So when you were an activist, tell me some of the things you did. I mean, you came here, you said, okay, I can't work, I can't do anything, my husband's at work.
I started talking about it. I started talking about the H4 visa. People were not willing to understand what H4 visa was. And they were like, oh, you speak good English and you have such good communication skills. How is it that you cannot get a job? And it was very hard for me to explain it to them that we came here legally and I cannot get a job.
Was there ever discussion about an intra-company transferee visa? Because then that would have given you a work permit right away.
These were the decisions that were made by the company.
Right, so you had
The employees are typically not involved, as you would know. The employees are typically not involved in these decisions.
Correct. It's either this is your visa, this is what you get.
Exactly.
Right, and maybe perhaps if the employees who are getting the visa were able to speak up and ask questions, maybe in retrospect should have got an intra-company transferee visa, you would have got a work permit right away rather than suffering for 7 years.
Absolutely, but that was probably not a choice given to us,
right?
Or offered to us, or for the lack of information.
I'll tell you why a lot of times they don't want to do the intra-company transferee visa, because then you wouldn't be tied. You wouldn't be tied to them as long as you are on an H-1B and a labor cert. Because if you got transferred as a manager or as an executive, you can immediately turn around and self-petition yourself for your green cards.
That's right.
Versus on the H-1B doing a labor certification, waiting for that to go pending, and then on a long waiting list because the L1 visa puts you in the EB1 category, and you're probably either EB2 or EB3. I don't know what you are, but so on a much longer waiting list.
Right. And it's so funny you're mentioning all of that. You're an immigration attorney. You understand what it is. I'm self-learned. I understand that, but a lot of people do not know the lingo.
I will tell you this: my firm doesn't represent big companies, so we don't have no banks are on my sending me checks or anything like that, or computer companies. But what I get a lot, and hopefully some people can take some knowledge from this, is that after somebody gets offered a job and the company says, okay, our company lawyer is going to do your H-1B or your L visa or whatever visa you may be doing, they then have a consultation with me individually and say, this is what the company is doing. Is this the right visa for me? What questions should I be asking?
Right. So Brad, imagine someone sitting in India and the company applying for their visa or work authorization, because it's a painfully long procedure.
Right.
It doesn't happen overnight. And the employee has no say in it.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
It's very difficult for an employee to make that decision based on half-baked knowledge or have half-baked information. That's
so
whatever
true.
you're saying is true for someone who's already living here.
Well, no, we do. We have people call us from all over the world. You just have to know to do it. And the problem is, and you didn't know to do it doesn't make you're very bright people. So it doesn't make you, not smart, you just didn't know to do it. You didn't know even this existed, that I should be going and asking, is this the right visa? Are there other options? The worst place in the world, by the way, which you already know, to go to for information, USCIS. Talk about half-baked information on a website. That's the...
Right,
yeah.
right. The jargon is confusing.
Yeah, USCIS is saying, on behalf of Donald Trump, that they want to end the program of allowing people who are on a waiting list from India and China for green cards, who are H-1B visa holders, pending green cards, but for the visa waiting list. And now a lot of people who are watching right now say, what do you mean the visa waiting list? There's a lot of people who call my show all the time and say, my mother's sponsoring me, how long will I have to wait? It's 7-8 years. It's the same, perhaps even 7-8 years for people from India.
It's actually right now, Cato Institute did a research earlier this year, and the projection is 150 years for a person of Indian origin with advanced degree.
150 years.
That's right.
Wow, I never saw that. But if that is the case, then you guys got to figure out another way to get a green card. That sounds quite absurd. So
it is absurd. I mean, imagine a century-long wait.
But the reality is, and I'm not doubting what you're saying, but I'm going to play devil's advocate with that number. Okay,
sure.
They don't know how many people on the waiting list are going to give up, be denied.
Agreed.
How many? Now, every time you have a child and a spouse, that they add to the waiting list. Because every time somebody gets fired, gives up, goes home. So it is an absolute guess. And the only thing that anyone could tell you for sure is this is the waiting time right now.
The USCIS, probably under pressure from activists like me and organizations like mine, they came up with the number of people actually stuck in the green card backlog. It's 336,000 plus people from India.
In total, it's about 2.5 million.
Right, and only primary applicants.
Okay, so you know what Donald Trump is saying through USCIS by taking your work permit away? You know what he's saying, really? He's saying Indians go home. That's what he's saying, because he's going to make it more difficult for you to live here, especially if it takes 150 years to get a green card.
Well, that's what's happening. You have to keep renewing your visa.
And your H-1B, right.
Exactly. Every 3 years until you really get the green card in hand, right? The green card application is 100% processed. You continuously keep doing that. And what's happening is I see a lot of people around me right now, even after having lived here 15 years with the approved green card petitions, their visa extensions are getting denied. If
in fact it's 150 years, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. What you should be doing is you should be going to your employer saying, we're going to move back and work, and I'm going to work remotely from London for a year.
A lot of people are doing that already.
And then bring me back as an intra-company transferee, not on an L visa, but directly as a green card, and get your green card. Because I don't know why they did an H-1B, but I generally presume that people who can do L visas, who end up on H-1Bs, it's done because the company wants to hold you longer, kind of like...
Well, yes, it is. And I'm sorry to use such a harsh term, but this is modern day slavery. This is indentured servitude, because what happens is till the time a person gets the green card in hand, they are tied to that one company. I mean, it's easier on paper that you can change. There are laws in effect that help you change companies, but you know how the current rhetoric is.
It is not easy to change companies. I wouldn't use that term, because indentured servants or slaves, actually, you couldn't leave your employment. You're free to leave.
Yes.
Indentured servitude is you have to pay off a debt, which is not what you're doing. But yes, in a way, you are tied to your employer. So I understand how you feel, but to use those words, I think is incorrect.
All right. So no promotion, no pay raise, until the time you get your...
I'm not defending it, by the way. I just think when you use those words, it's very incendiary, and it's not really what's happening.
I understand, but think of it. For people who are stuck in the green card backlog, they are unable to change an employer. They're unable to move to a different company if they feel that they're getting harassed at work. They cannot come up and speak. If women are getting harassed at work, they cannot come up and speak.
They can switch, except you need a new employer to sponsor you, and need a new employer to do a labor cert, and you would get your existing priority date.
Yes.
But it's difficult to find employers to do it. Absolutely. And you are not as free in the labor market as somebody who has a green card or is a U.S. citizen to go and get paid in an open market what you're worth. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I know of people who've graduated out of Ivy League schools here in the US who've done their masters and have lived and worked here on an H-1B visa for the past 10 years. Their H-1 transfers got denied. Even after approval, they wanted to switch employers.
Depends on their situation, their lawyer, so you can't really say that. Let's go back to your show. Did you talk about Trump wanting to take back the work permits for the spouses of Indians and Chinese who are on the waiting list?
I did, and I also did talk about the green card backlog in detail and how the entire issue is actually, if there were no green card backlog, there were no need for an H4 EAD in first place, if you come to think of it. If people from India, China, and Philippines were treated fairly as those born in other countries, and they would have had their green cards and work permits within first few months.
The purpose of the law is to diversify who's coming to America. I don't remember the exact number, but I believe the maximum per country is 4%. There has been a lot of talk by Democrats to change that and say, whatever country you come from, that's the country you come from. Everybody's on the same waiting list. It hasn't happened yet. I actually agree with you that there shouldn't be country limits. It should be worldwide limits, whatever the worldwide limit is.
It should be on the basis of skills, because
that's a different. One second, that's a different situation, okay? Because then now you're agreeing with Donald Trump, because he wants to make it on a skills-based. I actually disagree with that. I believe there should be family unity. There should be situations where people who are escaping violence should be able to get a green card. There should be situations where people who get married, people get reunited with their mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters and keeping families together. People who are the victims of crimes, people who are trafficked into America. Right. There's all sorts of reasons. People who invest money in a business. So there's all sorts of reasons why somebody should deserve to get to live in America.
Absolutely, okay. I agree. You have the asylum visa and you have the diversity visa and you have all sorts of other visas to get the green card, to put you on the path to green card, right? I am talking only under the H-1B category. When people are brought in on the basis of their skills, why are they then judged on the basis of their country of birth? That's my question.
Because they wanted to diversify it. These are laws that were written November 1990.
That's right.
Okay, so you're going back almost 30 years on laws. Now, what did America look like in November 1990? What does America look like today? The internet didn't even exist.
Global economics have changed.
Right. The internet didn't exist. So, obviously the laws need to change, but what Donald Trump is doing is actually making it worse, not better.
And you know what? There are senators like Senator Orrin Hatch, Tom Cotton, and Kevin Yoder that brought in amazing bills. Orrin Hatch's I-squared.
Tom Cotton hates immigrants, so I don't know what amazing bill you're talking about. But he's
you should
no. He's one of the worst senators ever for immigration. He's disgusting, actually. Maybe for you it was great, okay? But generally, he's one of the worst senators. He's so anti-immigrant. So I don't even think that you should go praise him, because he shouldn't be praised. He's a terrible senator.
I'm just saying that these were some of the senators who actually thought that there needs to be a change. Kevin Yoder's bill, HR 392, it has probably the highest number of co-sponsors in the history of bills.
Basically, what you're saying is that everything should be on a merit system, and I disagree with you. All of these bills that you're referencing to is put everybody on a merit system, and that's not what America is about. Now, maybe for you, one second, let me finish my sentence. Maybe for you, selfishly, it works for you, but it doesn't work for everybody. So, I disagree with you.
I am only talking about the high-skilled category. I'm not talking about any other category here. I'm only representing the highly skilled category.
If you have a high skill, you shouldn't have to wait at all. Period. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
so now we've had a heated argument. You're a nice woman, but we've had a heated argument. You obviously are very passionate about this, and you are on your show. And when you're talking about immigration, are people agreeing with you? Are they coming in and saying, no, get out of America? What are you hearing from your show after you air your opinions?
What I do outside of my show is my thing. What I do on the show, I'm completely detached.
But now I understand we have a clip of you talking immigration. Let's watch.
are back into that standstill where the uncertainty is on our head, whether am I going to work next month or not.
If they work, they are displacing one American worker.
Would you continue H4 EAD or not?
No, I will not.
Why?
No, because we here admitted the H1B visa holder.
Sitting in the most developed nation in the entire world, where women, because majority of H4 visa holders are women, being denied this basic right, asking them to stay in the four walls of the house.
Go back to India.
All right, so that seemed like you gave an opinion there.
I was not the moderator there.
I see.
I was
see.
invited as a
I see.
panelist to that
I
show.
See. I see. So what do you think is going to happen?
I have hope. I am hoping that even if they do go ahead and resign it, they're going to put something in place.
All right, I hope so.
Or they're going to be litigations. I'm sure companies and immigration firms like you will support us. There will be people coming out. There'll be an outcry.
Whenever there's a regulation change that has a major effect like this, there'll be a lot of litigation. There'll be judges who stop it right in its tracks until it goes all the way up the chain of command of appeals. It's going to be years and years and years. With that said, I always like to end our interview on a high note. Tell me about your American dreams. You're here in America now 10 years. What are your dreams for yourself here in America, you and your husband and family?
I think we are pretty much living our American dream, apart from the immigration mess that we are in.
Yes, that's true.
This is our home now.
That is true.
The day we landed here in the US, we had given up everything that was in India because this is where we wanted to live. That's why we made the choice. My husband's employer, they invited us to come and work here. This became our home. My kids know of no other country.
Where can people watch your show?
I have a Facebook page at the rate Real Neha Mahajan. And again, on TV Asia's Facebook page, TV Asia channel on Facebook, and on Twitter at TV Asia Network.
All right, Neha Mahajan, thank you very much. We look forward to speaking with you again soon.
Thank you so much, Brad. It was so lovely to talk to you. Thank you.